Hello. Today's snare battle features one of the most iconic snares from the 1960s, the Rogers Dynasonic. These drums were made from the early 1960s through the mid to late 1970s by Rogers USA. They came in two basic sizes plus a line of marching drums. The 5-inch model that you see here in front of you in wood. Also they came in chrome over brass. This is a 6.5. They also made a 5 of this drum, and they made a few of the 6.5 wood drums. I've also seen Dynasonic marching snares or concert snares before, but in the mainstream for the average drummer out there in the 60s, these were the main offerings. The Dynasonic is famous for its infamous snare reel and two-way adjustable snare system. This system was innovative, almost revolutionary at the time, because you could not only adjust how tightly the snare wires were stretched, but also how tightly they pressed up against the head of the drum. And this resulted in both controversy or divisiveness and a lot of interesting debate amongst drummers even at the time. A lot of people thought that they were very hard to tune, very hard to get the sound out of that the drummer wanted. Other people thought that they were just absolutely the best thing since sliced bread. And I happen to be in that latter category. I received my first Dynasonic used when I was about 12 years old. It was one of the drums that I learned to play on, and for years I had a 5-inch wood Dynasonic and a 5-inch Black Beauty, and those were I could handle any situation that I wanted with those two drums and a little bit of tuning. So today I have the original. This I believe is a 1968 5-inch wood Dynasonic, along with the reissue. A few years ago, some investors and some enthusiasts got together and they reconstituted the Rogers USA Drum Company. They had the patents, they had some of the tooling, they had even some of the old hardware I've read, and they did their absolute best to recreate this original classic. And so I have the brand new reissue Rogers Dynasonic here in the same basic model. And what I've done is I've taken my trusty drum dial and I have put identical heads on both snares. I have tuned both heads on both sides identically, same pressure. The internal muffler, the snares, all of that is set as close as I could possibly set to make the two drums tuned equally. As you can imagine, anytime a reissue of a classic comes out, there's always a lot of debate. This drum goes almost for 3 times as much as what this snare, the new reissue, goes for. And I'm often asked, is it worth it? When people see that I have several examples of both. Is it worth it for the vintage drum? Does the new drum sound better? Does the new drum sound worse, not even come close? And so I thought I would do this drum battle to kind of demonstrate the two side by side. I'll assume the position here, awkward as it may be, to play these two snares side by side, give you a little sound sample, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what I hear in person and how I use these drums. you have the old versus the new Dynasonic. I'm kind of limited in what I can do here from a playing perspective, but I tried to get in a fair amount of ghost notes, rim shots, rolls, a little bass work, see how it does in the mix, hi-hat and ride cymbal. And I hope it was, you could hear the nuances and the differences between the two drums. As I said earlier, this drum is almost 3 times as much cost-wise as the new reissued snare. And this is a fabulous drum. This is a 10-lug 5-inch maple snare, 5 plies, very quality components, and it has the adjustable rail system as we saw before underneath. The vintage drum is obviously 55 plus years old. It has almost identical hardware on it. One difference that you may have noticed between the two drums is this has the reissued beaver tail lugs, where this is bread and butter lugs. I'm sorry, reverse. This is bread and butter, this is beaver tail. And I don't have a new reissue with those lugs on it. That could make some of the difference in what you're hearing. Another thing I've noticed is the original drum, although it was sold as 5 inches, is actually a couple of 1/16 of an inch shy of 5 inches in depth. This drum is actually 1/8 of an inch larger, and I have went back and measured several out of my collection of these two snares, and that's a pretty consistent theme. So the new reissue drum is a wee bit deeper. I don't know how much you can tell from listening to the video, and obviously this is an amateur recording setup, but the old snare is, as you would anticipate from old wood, it is just a little bit softer. It's a little bit rounder. The note falls off more at a predictable pace. The new drum, while a fabulous snare, is a wee bit sharper. It cuts just a hair bit more. And again, on the sound quality of this recording, might be able to pick that up and might not. These are both fantastic snares in their own right. They have a very big sweet spot. You can get a snare sound with minor notes almost all the way out to the rim, and that's very unusual for this category of drum. And the tuning is so flexible. Again, I know it frustrates some guys trying to get what they want, but I can drop this top head down by about 5% and loosen up the snares, and I've got a Swamp Dog R&B fatback drum that would be second to very few. The same goes with this. I can tighten these up and have a concert snare that, again, might not be the best, but it would be second place in a lot of competitions. And the list just goes on and on. They are so flexible and so dynamic that if you passed a law and said I could only own one snare, these would be very high on the top of the list. Whether or not the new drum is, or the old drum is worth 3 times what the new drum is, that's up to you all to decide. That's an objective opinion. I actually have found good use for both. Anyway, I appreciate you watching the video. I hope this was informative. Maybe help you make a decision one of these days, and wish you all well.